riots, one of the catalysts, the main catalyst for the riots was the attack on an old geezer, 76-year-old Walter Chamberlain, ex-veteran, a veteran. And he was on his way home and he got attacked by 4 youths, but it's the area where he went home in Werneth, which is a Pakistani area. 2018, a guy got off a tram in Werneth and got 100 kicks to his head and body by 4 youths, 14 and 15-year-old. And I've also shown that in Oldham, certain schools and faith schools as well, they're not even teaching kids English properly. So how are these kids going to get jobs? How are they going to fit into our social structure? They're not going to fit into the social, but the government, the councils, none of them will tackle these issues. None of them will tackle these issues. They're all politically correct and they won't tackle these issues. Like I said, I'm going to look at the schools. I've been told already of a person who works at a main school in my area about safeguarding for girls, and she's had to report half a dozen girls because she's afraid that they're going to get abused or mistreated because of gangs of lads hanging around them. Honestly, this is going on right now. You won't say it in local rag or anything like that. I am a bit peed off that really no one comes to Oldham. We had Tommy on his MEP tour once and that, but no one else comes to Oldham. And for 5 years I've been crying about Oldham, mate, and no one's listening. Now we've got the child sexual exploitation. The then councillor, Arut Shah, said it in the council chamber that it's still going on. And like, no one's doing nothing, you know what I mean? And no one's saying nothing. It's just ridiculous. I'd weighed up my area, the Hollingwood area of Oldham. I know it well. I've got a lot of friends who I've known like all my life. And my goddaughter was the top one actually on my nominations list. So I know I'm going to do well there. And there is other areas in Oldham. But like I said, we want to be a bit different. And I like history, me. I liked history at school. And I can't stand this fake history. See, I'm going to call all these people out. I'm going to go into school and say, why are you reading a book that's fake? That's how we've got to start off at the bottom. If we leave them books in, then we're not going to solve anything. Them books are our primary school and junior school kids are reading and they need sorting out. That's the first step in indoctrinating them, telling them a fake history of what's going on and stuff like that so they can be indoctrinated. So we're going to tackle that. And I haven't seen any other party, any other organisation, except for some other organisations that like aren't political, that are dealing or even talk about this issue. So we're going to look at that. But you know, so a 30-year development for me, a 30-year development. After the riots, there was hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of damage done, and the council just gave that Pakistani community money to do their houses up and all this. And you know, if I've got 2 carers who come round who were like in the 60s, and they both tell you the same thing, and that's what they did. But no one says nothing, and then they wonder why the other sides of the community, especially the white community, are enraged. But when they get enraged, you just call them politically correct words to shut them up. You know what I mean? And we're not having it. We're not standing for it. I'm not going to be intimidated with them kind of words. I'm not a person who's easily intimidated either. And they're going to have to try a lot harder to break me up or anything. But I'm honest. That's the main thing is I'm honest. And as factual as I can be. Some of my facts are a bit out, but they're more or less right what I say. They can all be looked up and stuff like that. So another thing, and Danny was telling me this, telling me a little story, but through living in the town, obviously we knew everyone, and I knew lots of people from Pakistani community, because my dad's club, the West Indian club, was in the Pakistani community at the time in Gloddy. And them lads who killed Gavin were bragging about it and saying that they will kill again. Honestly, Danny's got a story, he had a story he just told me earlier on, but you know, this is what we put up with. Now, anyone said anything, they've just been branded and stuff like that. This is Oldham, and it's so bad. It's well documented. There's articles all over the internet about Oldham and the political correctness, the disparity between communities. My dad, like I said, my dad was on the National Lotteries Funding Commission. Now, without knowing anyone at that time, I didn't know anyone in the council who could give me information. What I did see were these, so like, the National Lotteries would fund little developments. So if you wanted a playground doing here, the National Lotteries would fund that. So my dad would get all the stuff about it, all the dimensions and all that. And why I got involved, because my dad's eyesight were going down, so I used to read it to him. So for about 3 years I read all these things to him, and even my dad used to say, like, how come they're not putting anything on St Mary's? Why is it always coldest where the Bangladeshis live? That's what Oldham is like, honestly. That's how blatantly, obviously, one-sided it is. And so I seen all these plans, and if I remember correctly, this was like 1999. I did keep a record of what I'd seen on these things. I haven't got it now. Might be in my storage, but I don't know where it is, and it's just 30 years ago or whatever. But I kept a record, and the disparities were massive. And Pat's mentioned this, and yet they did give everything to certain sections of the community and left others. And it's just so blatant, you know what I mean? And that's what Oldham's been like, but for 50 years. No one's tackled it. No one says anything or anything like that, and you just get branded. There were all sorts of trouble. There were other attacks and stuff like that, and like we've had a lot of like attacks on LGBT people. Now I don't agree with LGBT, but I'm not going to beat anyone up over it. I'm not going to beat a guy up because he says he's gay or anything like that. I'm just not going to do it. It's not in me to do it. But in Oldham, don't be going out at night in Oldham thinking that you'll be all right with being LGBT. There's been about 6 or 7 incidents where the LGBT people have been beaten up by Muslims. No one says anything. Police don't say anything. A report will come out, but nothing's said in the council chambers. I mean, in the council chamber, if I sit, I'll be right up, me, when I'm doing in the council, I'll be right up, right, well, what about all these? What about all these attacks on LGBT people? They're not by white people, so come on, why aren't you dealing with it? You know, I'm in a position now to do that if I get in the council. And as well, I heard someone say earlier on, you said about businesses. Now in Oldham Town Centre, we've got over 30 chicken shops, kebab houses, and stuff like that. Now, personally, I'm very picky, me. I know Pakistanis and Bengalis who have restaurants, and I'll eat there, but I won't eat from anywhere else. I refuse to. If I go to someone's house and saying they're getting a curry, I want to see a certificate made from the curry house where they've been to. But anyway, so there's 30 or 40 in Oldham. And let's say there's 3 guys working in and there's 2 delivery guys. Is anyone telling me they're all on the books paying taxes? They're not. They're not paying taxes. They're not. And it's massive in Oldham. This kind of thing's massive with shops and stuff like that all over the country. I heard Pat say it earlier on, and they won't be paying taxes. Them guys will be working cash in hand and claiming benefits as well. And another thing about Oldham is that we are the officially, I would say, the unofficial and officially most destitute, poorest town in the United Kingdom. In the United Kingdom wards in all the country, the top 10, Oldham's got 3 wards in that top 10 of being poor and all that lot. And obviously the minority community wards, but the council won't deal with it. They're always claiming that they want more money and the poor and all that lot. But if you look at the figures, you'll see that like more than 50% of the population don't work. Unless in a white area, it won't be as high. You know what I mean? There'll be more people working, and that's what it's like in Oldham. But nobody will say anything about these issues. No one will put them forward to the council, afraid of whatever. I'm not afraid, and a lot of these issues are going to go right up to our council, and I'm going to put them at the council door. When I talk about gender identity, I'm expecting every single Muslim in council to support me. They should be supporting me. I don't want my kids indoctrinated like that, and neither do a lot of people. So, you know, it's up to us, and it's up to me, and up to us what we do. And I mean, some people say, I've said this and I'm going to say it again, people don't like me saying it, there's only two ways to go. You either voting or a French Revolution. And when I mean French Revolution, I mean the guillotine. Them are the only two ways that we're going to get our country back. I can't see any other way. We should use everything in our arsenal, and I like common law, and I think that could be useful. But a lot of the common law people, they won't vote. They just refuse to vote. You know what I mean? But I do think common law is good for the working class man. Definitely. But you know, it's something to look into. So, you know, we've got half a dozen weapons to fight our establishment with. Not just voting, common law, other routes and stuff like that. But you know, we have to try, and we'll see what we can do. But so going on now, so I've already explained how the council create ghettos in the 90s. That's what the riots are blamed on. Let's move forward to 2014, Eastern European immigration. What happened? Created ghettos again by putting them all in the same area. There's been protests of Pakistanis against the Romanians. Things in Greater Manchester like distraction, theft, handbag snatching, stuff that you see in a city centre dramatically increased because of Eastern Europeans, and that's GMP telling me that. Not me making up, that's Greater Manchester Police. But they've done exactly the same thing. They put them all in the same area. It's created a ghetto, a bit of a no-go zone. If you're not from that area, I just won't walk through it. I wouldn't. The Romanians, they'll say something to you. And they do. I lived in the area, walked through it, and they used to like have a go at me. And look at me, I'm 6'4", you know what I mean? Honestly, they used to say things to me. So other people won't stand a chance. So, you know, they're just repeating the same mistakes over and over again. And I'll bring this to the council. I've already said this, I went through this to Graham Stringer, veteran Labour Member of Parliament in Cheetham Hill, went to a hustings there, and it was 99% Muslims and 1% Jewish, and I think one white guy. And I stood up me and said, after this, room just went deathly quiet. Just went deathly. No one could call me any names, because everything I said's true. You know what I mean? No one could denounce me or call me anything, because I was only reading off reports and actual factual things. Since then, I've been to the Mayor's question time, and Andy Burnham come to Manchester, come to Oldham on the Mayor's question time in December, talking about child sexual exploitation. I stood up, I called the police all sex offenders, I turned round to Andy Burnham and said, please take political correctness out of the report. Please don't let political correctness write that report. Unfortunately, it's drenched in political correctness, the Oldham child sexual exploitation report. So I'm confident enough to go to the Mayor, me. I'm confident enough to go to the Chief of Police. I don't know anyone else who is that confident that they'll do these things, and I'm not scared of saying, like I said, it's recorded. It's recorded on the Greater Manchester Mayor's question time on YouTube, and I call all the police sex offenders, said you're a national disgrace with all the crimes that the police are committing, and like you need to do better vetting on your police force. And I said that to the Assistant Chief Constable of Greater Manchester Police and Oldham Chief Constable. And through talking to them and being blunt and honest, I'm gaining a bit of a rapport with them. And I've talked to the Deputy Chief Constable again, and the Oldham Chief Constable said that he will investigate all crimes to do with child sexual exploitation. He said it, it's on video. If he doesn't do that, we'll be burning down Oldham Civic Centre. I tell you, it won't be me, it'll be all members of the public, just normal people. Honestly, because we've got to get them into these positions. They've never been in this position before. There weren't groups like us who go to the police and say anything. And if they did, they were just really branded, and like the BNP, they were branded, or NF, they were all branded and pushed to the side. And but now, more normal members of the public are standing up and speaking out. I'm one of them. And so we're going to put pressure on them. We've got another meeting on Thursday. I'm going to try and get a question in. I have said a particular question, but I'm not going to say that. I'm going to go straight on to talking about political correctness when I'm in the council meeting. If I get a chance to do a bit of a speech on Wednesday. But, you know,